I'm intrigued with this. I went to boarding school, right? I went to boarding school, Sacred Heart College out in East Tamaki and kind of eastern bays of Auckland. Not the bays, but above the bays, in the poor area above the bays. And there was always a rumour that they were about $1.50 a meal. Now, obviously, this was 312 years ago, so $1.50 went a lot further. And so $3 meals, this is what they look like. I don't want to get too much ahead of myself, but the thing I thought, but then again, I don't have primary school kids anymore, so I can't remember. But the one thing I thought the portions were very small. Maybe that's just a guy looking at a snack, Chewy, but we'll see what you think about it.
Beef rissoles, Mexican and butter chicken curry are among the meals that'll be served up for free school lunches from next year. All eligible primary and secondary students will now get the new meals instead of just those in year 7 and above. The government's bulk buying approach will save $130 million next year. But as Kate Nichol-Williams reports, there are nutrition concerns.
These lunches will soon be filling the bellies of students. But first, it's time for a taste test of the curry.
It's one of the best meals that you're going to have. So I think you'd be amazed at what they've achieved here.
Hot and cold meals will be delivered to eligible schools for all students. The cost of each lunch has been reduced to $3, a result of the government using its bulk purchasing power.
Now, I mean, I'm not going to get caught up in the size of them too much. Someone's actually messaged us, Vicky's messaged us saying, I'm assuming Vicky's saying they're 240 grams, which doesn't feel like nothing. But what, I mean, do you remember being at primary school? Parents of primary school kids now, is that okay lunch? I mean, what happens at morning tea, afternoon tea? Is that going to get kids through or not? Now, I'm not actually looking to poke holes in it for hole's sake. I'm genuinely asking, is that portion size going to be enough?
I'm going to borrow a phrase from our chat last night. I'm not going to let good be the enemy of perfect.
Okay.
I think any meal program that is available to all students is better than nothing.
But not as good as what they had last year.
Yeah. And I think for a couple of reasons. Yes, I would have questions, as you said, serving size, nutritional basis. Had they looked at that, or is it just cost per meal? As I said, this government's great at knowing the cost of everything, but not the value of anything. So one of the benefits of the previous school program is that they just gave schools the money and they sourced stuff locally. There's a spin-off benefit to the local economy and local producers and fresh produce and that sort of thing. This is more centralized meal production factories, frozen and sent out nationwide. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get the cost down through economy of scale. Again, not necessarily the worst fucking thing in the world, but is it the best thing that we can do? In the meantime, while we're working that out, let's put some food in some kids' bellies.
Yeah. I hear you. We'll keep going.
Argument is not fun. No, fuck.
Compass Group, owned by a British multinational company, will run the new program with big brands like Fonterra, Griffins and Hellers supplying food. Most of the current suppliers providing meals to schools will be cut.
Those include small, locally owned businesses.
I can sympathise with people who have...
Remember that conversation we've been having about this government is a government for big business and not for small business or individuals? Is that just this box being ticked? Box being ticked, perhaps, on this one.
Lost business as a result of this change. But if you put it round the other way, should we spend twice as much taxpayer money and get the same result?
But health experts doubt it'll have the same nutritional results. Health Coalition Aotearoa are concerned about suppliers Compass Group and Libel, who have previously been subject to performance management over food quality issues. The Education Ministry says that...
Yeah, and also remember, just let me use an example if people ever go to McDonald's. You know how the Big Mac looks in the advert compared to what you actually get in your they still come in boxes? We're just seeing very nicely laid out foods. You know, I saw the display of like yogurts and stuff. They're all looking pretty. This here, see all those look all lovely, laid out perfectly. I wonder also how much of this is the advert versus what it'll actually be. That's going to be telling as well.
This was robust. The government says the meals meet current nutrition standards, but one dietitian says there's a lack of fresh veggies.
Simply cutting the amount of food that they're having and supplying a more processed, less varied diet is a complete lost opportunity for our health system.
Schools with primary and older students are welcoming the change to one lunch model.
I think it's fantastic. I think there needs to be that.
Again, I thought this true. You know, he said earlier about that person on the street in Wellington where their vote was. We don't even get the name of this person to research them. Now, I'm not, again, casting aspersions, but it would be good to be able to find out, is there any kind of reason that some within the school system are very pro this and others are not? I don't know, but we don't even get to know who this person is. No name comes up at all.
Equity across the school.
Really good that we've got the foods, the lunches still. Really good that it's a single model. But my concerns are around the remoteness of us and that the model is geared up for city students.
The new menu starts being dished up in the new year.
I don't know about you, Joy, but I don't think I've ever seen a man struggle so much to put a rissole in his mouth. Watch again.
Geared up for city students.
The new menu starts being dished up in the new year.
Blink.
That was it's really good.
When the real food reviews by Tamariki will happen. Kate Nicol-Williams.
There you go. Now, I want to add one other thing to this conversation, and it's not to do with the school lunches, it's to do with something that's happening in America, but you go first. Thoughts, sir?
My thoughts aren't good. Like, I'll stick with the thing that any meal is better than no meal. But I think that New Zealand students deserve better than this. I think a decentralized model that had more fresh fruit and vegetables, that pumped money into local producers, the local manufacturers and that sort of thing over a British multinational company with questions over food quality in the past is really the thing that's going to inspire confidence. Like, this is just mass-produced freezer food for kids. It is hitting bare minimum standards, and the thing that they are most happy about, and I think the thing that would have been the top line item of what they wanted to achieve, was $3 a meal. It needs to be cheaper than what Labor did, because we've criticized them about it. It looks like a fucking corporate handout again.
We said this last week about an infrastructure issue. If your starting point, if your top line, if your most important thing is the dollar value, then you're always going to fall short. Now, that can be up the top, but if the number one thing is budget, if that's it, versus use versus, in this case, health outcomes, whatever, then you're always going to come short. Let me throw this at you as well. I talked a bit about this the other day. I'm not going to play anything, but I'm going to show you something. There's three YouTubers, KSI, whichever one of the calls
these
it is,
cunts.
Logan or whatever, and Mr. Beast. I quite like Mr. Beast. We're watching with my kids sometimes.
Oh no, Pat.
They've brought out this product called Lunchly. Now there's another product I think called Lunchify or something like that. And so these guys are trying to kind of quote unquote eat their lunch by putting out their own product. And this guy, Logan, is this Logan Paul? Or Jake Paul, whichever one he is, he has this product called Prime Drink, and it's like the worst drink in the world. That's all full of sugar. It doesn't do jack all. Obviously, Feastables and Mr. Beast and KSI is just riding the wave. Now, there's a document, you can go have a look at this online yourself. Doctor reacts to the Lunchly controversy. This is the thing I'm trying to check in with what happens with these foods, because what the doctor found out was actually some of the levels within these packages of like sodium and like fats and all that, they weren't too bad. Right? They weren't too bad. But what they found out was the average calorie that you want to give to a child is, that's year 1 to year 6 in New Zealand. So that's primary school, that's intermediate school. So primary school is between 550 and 600 calories. That's how much they should be having for lunch. Intermediate school, 600 to 700 calories. Now, what they found out was these meals are only 230 calories. So when you look at the ingredients on the back and the salt, the sodium's not too bad and the fats aren't too bad, all those kinds of things, that's because the portion size is only 1/3 what it should be for the calorie intake. So therefore, if you give them the right number of calories, you have to eat nearly 3 of these to get the calorie intake recommended by the medical fraternity as to what the kids should be having. So one of my questions straight away now, after listening to this, because it's really interesting, I'd never thought about that the food needs to be of a certain calorie limit or size for the kids to be able to function. It's fuel. I always talk to my kids about food being fuel for your body. So they need 500 calories of fuel to function properly. They're getting these meals, and I'm just talking about the YouTubers one, the Lunchlies, and on the back the sodium's not too bad and the fats aren't too bad and the carbs aren't too bad, but it's only 1/3 the fuel they need to actually get through the day. Now, bringing that back to what's going on here, this is what I want to now know about these lunch meals. Like, what is their calorie intake? Is that going to sustain a child? Because, butter chicken sounds great, but in a proper butter chicken, you have lots of creams and that kind of stuff. Those calories will be quite high for quite a small portion, or what? So that's what I'm still waiting on. And I get the sense that health experts haven't been able to have a crack at this yet because it was just released today. Once they do, dietitians and stuff will be able to break it down more. And then we'll find out, not put food in people's tummies, Chewy, but then we'll find out if they are also achieving as well as they have been with giving the kids the foods they need. Hereth ended my sermon.
Those Lunchly or whatever those guys are calling their product, they might have some other problems, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying.
For those of you that can't see, but look at the serving size, which is laughable. And then look at the fact that it's moldy.
Yeah. Yeah, look, and I'm not sticking up for them at all. Like Mr. Beast had this other product, Beast Burgers, and he cancelled it because it didn't really work. So put a product out. But the thing that I learned from it was, okay, how much? Let's just use salt. How much sodium is in there, and what's the portion size? Because what the doctor was saying, the portion size for a primary school kid should be about 500 calories. So if the portion size in those meals are only 200 calories, then they have to eat 2.5 of them, which would put the sodium way out of whack. So they're still to figure all that out. And then I'm holding my opinion altogether because the foods looked okay. And if the portion sizes work, and as you've been saying, Chewy, putting food in people's tummies. Yeah.
I think it's almost a hierarchy, right? Like, any food program is better than no food program. The food program that we have should be available to all students, like all schools, all students. That's another one of my yardsticks. And then I would like it to be as healthy and nutritious and locally produced as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And only then shall we talk about the dollar value.
Yeah. And
but I think this government has come backwards.
The teacher in that story, who was obviously teaching rurally, I'm guessing, his point was it doesn't feel like this is really designed for the rural sector. And I wonder if that's because of the mass production, Chewy. That means you want to be close to where they're being produced, harder to get this dude here. And that's what he basically said, wasn't it? You've stolen my screen, that's why. This guy here, he's like, it's good to get it all on the same thing, but it seems like this is set up for the cities. And I'm assuming you're saying that because of location of getting these bulk made foods out to them.
I think there needs to be that equity across the school.
Really good that we've got the foods, the lunches still, really good that it's a single model. But my concerns are around the remoteness of us and that the model is geared up for city students.
So, there's other things still to figure out. But Chewy, you're being very gracious. Food in children's tummy is important. But that doesn't mean also the whole good, excellent thing. Good would be the enemy of excellent, or excellent be the enemy of good. If you find out, for example, it's not good enough, then you need to do better. And we don't know that yet.